Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Okay, normally I have to get up here and encourage people to reach out and meet the other people at their table, but I can see that has very clearly already happened this morning. Welcome. Welcome to the Good Leadership Breakfast. Today is the 116th meeting that we've had for Good Leadership Breakfast, and it's the second of 3 in a fall series where we continue to do a deep dive into the pathway to healthy accountability. My name is Julie McDonough. I'm the Minnesota Market President for Old National Bank. Super excited to be here. I've been a longtime friend and co-host of the Good Leadership Breakfast. To kick us off today, I'd like to share a commercial from our presenting sponsor, Old National Bank.
Let's be real. Money doesn't come with instructions. A coach has a playbook, an architect has a blueprint, a journey has a roadmap. But your finances, where are they going? That's where private wealth management at Old National comes in. Imagine having a personal wealth advisor and a dedicated private banker who actually get you. Not just order takers managing your money, but an experienced team working with you to build a roadmap. Private wealth management at Old National. Let's create a roadmap for your financial future.
All right, thank you. Private wealth management is near and dear to my heart. That's the business line that I lead for Old National, so very proud of our team and the work that they do with our clients and communities. I also want to take a minute to thank our meeting sponsor this morning, UKG. UKG is the workforce operating platform that puts workforce understanding to work. UKG empowers organizations like yours with insights and people-first AI to build trust, amplify product, and empower talent from the front office to the front lines. So can we give a round of applause to UKG this morning, please? Okay, we're going to jump right into it today with one of our favorite exercises, the 7F's wheel. So JC, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Well, good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Yeah, the little crisp energy feels like it's officially fall. So, but everything's always changing. No matter when you walk in here, there's stuff that was happening right before you walked in this room that's still in your mind, that's still allowing you to go, I need to be here, I need to be here, which is why we always engage in the 7F's wheel to kick off the Good Leadership Breakfast. Through our 7F's wheel sponsor, Irish Titan, Darren Lynch, this is a really wonderfully effective, simple way for you to place yourself in the room with all the things you bring in here, because it all matters. If you look inside your handout today, you will see printed out the 7F's Insight tool, but you can also use the little code inside your program as well if you want to do it on your phone. Here's what the 7F's wheel does. It's a quick calibration of these 7 things in your life: your faith, your family, your finances, your fitness, your friends, your fun, and your future, to go, hey, how am I? Where am I? And then how does it allow me to connect with the people who are sitting at the table with me today? So here's what you're going to do. You'll see that there's a simple prompt question next to each one of these 7 words on the handout. Like, for example, faith, how satisfied are you with your spiritual life? For that one, if it couldn't be any worse, you'll give yourself a 1. If it couldn't be any better, you'll give yourself a 10. And then you'll go around the circle and circle 7 numbers. After you've done that, connect the dots, and then we'll go ahead and get to talk about if that wheel will roll or not. All right. So you've had a little bit of time to go ahead and circle your numbers and connect your dots. Hey, everybody in the room, how many of your wheels would roll? If your wheel would roll, go ahead and raise your hand. If your wheel would not roll, go ahead and raise your hand. Yeah, right, here's the deal. If your wheel would roll, that would be great, whether all the numbers are small or whether all the numbers are big. But even if your wheel won't roll, you having an awareness of where it's going to go flat, where you're going to have a little giddy up in your step, allows you to better do your work. So one of the other things we do at the Good Leadership Breakfast is we tap into the energy and the perspective of this group of people who may not know each other yet. The world may call them strangers. We call them people we do not know yet who gather to go ahead and do some good things together. So get out your phone and use the code to go ahead and go to this website, or if you'd rather type in www.slido.com and enter this code number, you'll get tagged into our polling for the day. And the first question is, which of the 7Fs are you most satisfied with today? Now, again, that's not saying which number is highest, but it's saying which one are you most satisfied with. It may have been a 1 yesterday and a 2 today, and you're like, you know what? That feels really good. All right. So as you look up on the screen, you can see we have a lot of people very satisfied with their family existence today. And it's really funny to be standing next to Julie from Old National Bank, that not a single darn one of y'all said that you're satisfied with your finances today. Please reach out to Old National Bank. But here's the deal, everybody. One of the reasons why we do 7Fs is the same reason why we come together in this room, which is the same reason why we've been doing all of this work on healthy accountability. If you're walking into your workspaces thinking that you're supposed to lay all of these things aside, that we leave who we are outside of work, we know that that doesn't work. So as you sit around the table today, maybe you find the courage or the curiosity to go, hey, how are your 7Fs today, stranger? And all of a sudden, you can better understand the work that they do. Because as we've learned, healthy accountability is not a character trait. It's not a generational thing. It's not a, here are accountable people, here are unaccountable people. But that it's something that we create in the environment. And you having an awareness of the whole person that's sitting at the table, that's sitting across the cubicle, that's sitting on the conference room table with you, all of a sudden you can go, okay, now we can do better work. So let's have a good breakfast today. Julie.
You know what, I actually like that finances isn't up there because the question is, what are you most satisfied with? And your finances should be there to support the things that are most important to you, right? Which are the ones at the top. If it was what are you least satisfied with and it was at the top, then I'd be a little worried. Okay, now it's time for me to introduce the creator of this event. He's the founder and CEO of Good Leadership. He is quickly becoming the thought leader on healthy accountability, and he is a constant voice for how goodness pays in business and leadership. Please join me in welcoming Paul Batz.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a happy day when we get this many HR people in the room. Yeah, absolutely. Good leadership. Let's see. Do you have the clicker? Who's got that? JC, do you have the clicker? Yeah, thank you. We're off to a good start, aren't we, JC? Yeah. Yeah. So everything we do here at Good Leadership is lifts up this idea that goodness pays. And this is important that we pay attention to our definition today because this is the centerpiece of what we're talking about. Goodness is when people thrive together in a culture of encouragement, accountability, and positive teamwork. You know that we've done a lot of research in the last 2.5 years, and the theme of this meeting is the pathway to healthy accountability. But we're actually focusing a little bit differently today on the idea about people right there. That's why we have an HR expert as our speaker. And also, I have some friends to introduce you to. Please join me on stage, please. Gulsa Matson, Jim Horn, and Shelly Elmar. And as they're making their way up, I just want to call attention to the fact that things like this breakfast, it takes a whole legion of people to pull it off. And we've got a new idea that we're going to talk to you about that has something to do with celebrating the art of people in business. And first I want to introduce you to Gulsa. I met her because of this breakfast. And she came up one day and said hello and said she wanted to be more involved. And then she brought an idea to my colleague Jill, and Gulsa, it's your turn right now. This is a fireball of a woman who's a visionary, and she's going to tell you what that idea was right now.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Paul. Okay, before I launch the idea or what we are about to do here, I'm just going to say a few things. Gulsa Matson and I have been in Minnesota for 20 years, and after 20 harsh winters, I earned a badge to call myself Minnesotan. Because people ask me, where are you from? I'm a Minnesotan, so thank you. And secondly, I love these breakfasts, and one day, actually, Sarah, my friend, who's an HR leader, one day I told her that, look, I'm going to be on the stage someday. I don't know when and how, but I will be on the stage with Paul. Today is the day.
Yeah, and we match too, kind of, don't we? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, folks, I've been in the benefits business, for almost 20 years. And now, as I just accepted a role at Gallagher as an area president. And throughout my career, I closely worked with HR leaders. And, like the talent development, benefits, HR, payroll, you name it, everything under the sun of HR umbrella. And one thing I've noticed that the work that they are doing is nothing short of extraordinary. And that grew in me over the years, and it became very near and dear to my heart. And, as part of my job, I travel and, I attend various events and whatnot. I attended the Year of CEO event. I attended the Year of CFO event. And last night, I was actually sharing with Paul and others. I was flying to Europe, and I picked the magazine, and it says the Year of, aesthetic surgeon or the Year of cardiologist. And I thought to myself, where is the Year of the HR leader? They're doing so much great work. And, granted enough, I don't want to discredit, there are other platforms out there that, recognizes and acknowledges HR leaders, but there isn't a one big, bold moment to celebrate HR leaders. Behind the scenes, they're doing so much important work. They drive culture, they lead change, they support employees or the people through challenges, and most importantly, they shape the future of work. I mean, if this is not critical and instrumental for an organization, I don't know what it is instrumental, right? So I came up with the idea, I want to have an award that, recognizes the HR leaders. Of course, like little spark of an idea, I'm just me as the individual. Can I make it happen? Yeah, maybe, but, execution is a huge thing. And I want to do this with the organizations that passionate like me, fireball like me, and also, have commitment to the HR community. So I reached out to Paul and Jill, and I said, I have this idea. And you know what? They didn't even blink of an eye. They were like, we are in, let's do some goodness for HR people. And that just melt my heart right there. And I'm like, okay, here I am as the visionary. I have this idea. I have good leadership support. They want to make this happen, but I need another right hand to make this happen. And I was having a coffee with a Gallagher leader, and I said, you know what? I have this idea. What do you think? He's like, well, let's do it, how quickly we can do it. And when he said that, I was thinking in my head, okay, it's a big organization, it's publicly traded, probably they won't be able to do it because they need to, get approvals from 100 different people under the sun, if that happens. But no, right in there, their commitment to say, let's make it happen, we are in, it was just a celebration moment for me. So fast forward to today, with the instrumental support of Gallagher, good leadership, and media partner to City's business, my little spark of an idea is becoming a reality. So get ready, HR leaders. We are going to have the very first HR Thrive Awards on May 6th to celebrate the HR leaders, trailblazers, culture champions, and people first, innovators. And I'm just super excited. So what I'm gonna ask, mark your calendars now for May 6, 2026. We are going to have one big awesome event. We are going to make this a big show, and we will have the Year of the HR leader in Minnesota here. So I'm super excited about that. Big applause to all HR leaders in the room.
Yeah, so, excellent.
Well, of course, there is a there will be a judging committee, and my friend here, Jim, agreed to be the chair of the judging committee. I can't make this happen by myself, and he's going to launch the details of the program. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support, and watch us on LinkedIn and on social media, wherever, because we need nominations. You guys are all important in this to make this, successful. So please nominate the HR leader. Please let's make this happen. So that's what I'm going to say. Okay, I talked too much. Thank you.
There you go. That's okay. Yeah.
That's what happens to me.
Yeah. Now it's time for Jim.
Yeah.
So
that's
Jim,
that's
okay. It's okay. So Jim, tell us, what are we going to celebrate?
I don't very often get to try to move the mic up, but that's nice.
Yeah,
Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks so much, Gulsa. So I want to thank Gulsa very specifically around being the catalyst, right? I mean, you talked about being the spark of an idea. And you made it happen, and here we are talking about this. So, I mean, I think long overdue. I think, this area is a powerhouse in terms of HR capability and competency and leadership and kind of leading the way in organizations. And I think we've become so much more important in the last few years to help our organizations through those challenging times that will continue, right? So I really appreciate, Gulsa, you getting this started. I'm also just happy to be here and happy to be involved in starting up this process and kind of the charter year for these awards I'm going to talk about. So anyway, let's talk about the awards. We have 4 different awards, and I do want you to start thinking about who do you have on your teams, who do you know around Minnesota, who's worthy of winning these awards. So let's talk about the awards. So Next Gen HR Leaders Award. This is for those, we'll call them the rising stars. These are for those folks that probably you have several of them on your team, who have 10 or fewer years of HR experience. All right, so these are the folks that we're going to be probably sitting here in the next 10 years, right? So think about that, 10 award winners. So we need lots of nominations, at least 10. So let's get 10, all right?
Yep.
The next is the Empower HR Award. And this is for those folks, those leaders who are actually paving the way for those HR folks of the future, right? So the folks that mentor, coach, are advocates, supporters, lift those up and kind of pave the way for being successful HR leaders in their organizations. We're gonna have 5 finalists, so we need at least 5 nominations, and we're gonna have 1 award winner for this award. And then third, the HR Innovator Award. I think this has become critical, right? These are the folks that are paving the way in terms of technology. Think about AI, think about efficiencies, think about digital transformation, either for their teams or enabling that in their organizations. These are the folks that are making lives easier for their peers by creating efficiencies, by creating more space to do more important work, right? Let's let AI, let's let agents do the work that we do today so we can spend more time consulting with our clients. And then last, by the way, 5 finalists, 1 award winner. And then lastly, the Good Leadership Award. 5 finalists, 1 award winner as well. These are for those HR leaders, these are for those strategic HR leaders that are leading HR strategy, leading business strategy, creating effectiveness in their organizations. These are the big difference makers in their organizations. So keep those folks in mind. All right, we have a QR code. We're gonna send this out to everybody after the session today. Please start making nominations. Nominations are due by the end of December, so we're giving you, 10, 11 weeks to get these done. Please share this with the colleagues that you know. Please look around the room and think about the folks that are worthy of these awards already. Okay, one key criteria that we just want to talk about is this is for folks who reside in Minnesota, at least for this first year. These are for Minnesotans. And this is for companies that have a presence in Minnesota, all right? So think about Minnesota folks, Minnesota companies at this point. Okay? And I think that is it for me. I am going to be leading the judging committee. There'll be a number of other folks that Good Leadership's going to help us identify for the judging committee. So I hope that we have a lot of work to sort through with a lot of great nominees. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, and last but not least on the stage here, we have Shelley Elmore. Shelley is the publisher at Twin Cities Business, and I'm going to love to hear her talk about her role in this activity. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. I also want to thank Paul and the team at Good Leadership. They put a lot of work into this program, a lot of thought. And, it's something that's been really missing from this market. I know that we've had conversations about this going back probably a couple of years. And so we're really thrilled to be asked to be the media partner. One of the great things that I'm very excited about that we will also be featuring, profiling all of the winners and the finalists in the June issue of Twin Cities Business. So that's going to reach folks statewide. I think it's going to, elevate and show the work that all of you in this room are doing. So my advice to you is to nominate early and to nominate often. As we said, we're giving a lot of awards out and we need a lot of nominations. And we know that those individuals are out there. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, all of you. Yeah, the main message here is nothing significant ever happens alone. We were so grateful for Gulsa and her idea and everybody along the way who said yes, including you. We won't have anybody to give awards to unless you nominate them. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Julie.
Thank you. Okay, now it's time for one of our favorite rituals here at the Good Leadership Breakfast. If you go down to your local hardware store, this is called the Handy Paint Pail. It's an invention by our good friend, Mark Bergman. I think I saw Mark here today. And there he is, I got a point. But here at the Good Leadership, we call it the bucket of goodwill. So, step one, I want you to think about practicing your generosity and your aspirational thinking, and I want you to dig deep in your purse or your wallet and make a donation to the bucket of goodwill. We take cash, we take checks, we'll take an IOU, or what might be the easiest, you can scan the code there and give electronically. Step two, put your business card in the bucket. And if you forgot to bring a card with you today, we have cards on the table. You can fill out your name, put your information on there. And then step three, start dreaming, because we're going to, at the end, draw somebody's name. Somebody here will come up on stage and be able to donate all the funds collected to the nonprofit organization of their choice. And we have a generous match from Mark Bergman and the Handy Paint Pail to do that. Last month, our total raised for this went over $450,000. So applause to that. We'll give you a couple minutes, and thank you for your generosity.
Well, finish up your giving, and then we're going to jump into a little bit of polling to set up our conversation today with a little table workshop. So I'm going to flip ahead in the slides here just for a moment, because we know who's here for the first time at a Good Leadership Breakfast today. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here. Yeah, give them a round of applause. You walked into something you didn't know that you were going to be affected by today, and we appreciate you being here. So for the last couple of years, as we've shared, we've been working on research on accountability. And we realize that accountability most often is not seen as a positive thing. So it's the reason why we call it healthy accountability. The research has shown that there's 5 elements that you can do in your organization to really move accountability into being the glue that as you're doing good work, as you're growing and shifting and shaping and changing, these are 5 things you can do to go ahead and keep your team moving together. A couple are on the team side, finding the growing edge and teams committed through discipline follow through. A couple are on the organizational side, role modeling at the top and selecting, promoting for accountability. And then obviously the individual has to seek accountability as well. But today we're going to focus a little bit on the conversation of selecting and promoting people from within and the outside for accountability. So a couple of poll questions, and then we'll allow you some time to talk amongst yourselves at your table. So again, if you haven't already joined the polling, please do so. And then the question up on the screen says, I believe accountability is valued and rewarded as a key factor for career advancement in my organization. Go ahead and take a moment to say, I agree, I disagree, or somewhere in the middle. All right. So maybe to no surprise, about 85% of you are like, yeah, of course accountability is something that is valued and rewarded as we look at growing our team and moving the right people forward. Second question. Our organization effectively screens and interviews for accountability as an important competency. So as your organization is looking for the right people to bring on in, do you agree or disagree that it's part of the screening process? Okay, I heard some chuckles right away when the question was asked, and I didn't know what those chuckles were about, but I was kind of assuming that maybe it was this. 6 out of 10 of you are kind of like, I don't know. Or, nope, we don't do that. That when you're sitting, like who's ever been asked the question at an interview, so talk about a time you were accountable. Talk about how you, and I see a couple of hands, but not the 85% of you saying, yeah, it's rewarded on the inside, but then why are we not doing the work to have people see that as a part of our fingerprint, part of our DNA from the organization on the outside? So I have the opportunity to lead a lot of workshops on healthy accountability through this good leadership lens. And the most guffaws, the most huhs, is when we get to the select and promote for accountability. There's things that you can do to help people see that this is something that is a positive change agent in your organizations. If you open up your hymnal and take out the second piece of paper, you'll go ahead and see your workshop for the day. We're going to talk about selecting and promoting for accountability. And I'm going to walk you right through this. The definition: when organizations promote individuals who consistently role model healthy accountability, evaluate new hires for personal ownership and follow-through, and make intentional decisions to pass over candidates who do not add to a culture of healthy accountability. Look at those numbers. 188% increase in the belief that accountability is going to be something that's consistent. Not like there's a 30% chance that accountability is going to be applied today, but that we do this as part of who we are. A 71% increase within team members, colleagues going directly to each other rather than to someone else to deal with the moments where we can grow. And a 70% increase in teams making decisions together. So you'll notice there's 2 questions here at the bottom of the page. Number 1, how effectively does your talent system select and reward for accountability? And number 2, in what ways is HR an effective partner in creating a culture of healthy accountability in your organization? You may be like, hey, here's what we're already doing. Or this may really become a white space whiteboarding activity to go, what can we go ahead and take from this conversation today that Shawn in a few minutes will go ahead and offer some insight on to go ahead and change the way that you operate for the rest of this day and beyond. This may be the moment where you have the greatest aha today, right? Someone who's in your sphere who can go, here's a perspective. So, knowing that you just had an inspiring conversation, a conversation that maybe made you think differently, let's go ahead and tap the room one more time here. So as you'll see up on the screen, after your discussion today, what one word, or 2 words if it's a hyphenated word, would you use to describe how you are feeling about the future of healthy accountability in your organization? All right, I love the mindful pause of the words popping up one at a time. But Paul, I'll tell you what I see. I always love when I see 2 things. Words that invite us to see where we're going, like hopeful and optimistic, but then words that maybe sometimes are seen as contradictory or complex, like challenged and positive. I've never met anyone who goes like, ooh, accountability just feels good. I love being accountable. I understand the benefit of it and why I do it, but it's never going to feel positive without the challenge. Paul, what do you see?
My favorite's sketchy. Shawn and I were talking about, as this was happening, we were doing our table conversation about the early stages of trying to figure out how to attack this subject. We ended up doing 72 interviews in the first phase, and only 1 person out of the 72 said, oh yeah, we have a strategy, and this is how we do it when we do interviewing and promoting for accountability. 1 out of 72. And we were like, everyone else said, well, it's kind of inferred, which is funny as can be because the key to accountability is clarity. Oh well.
The puzzled and sketchy people in the room, we see you, we hear you, we stand with you. One last announcement from me, and then we'll hand back to Paul. So I know some of you had trouble with the QR code with Bucket of Goodwill. We're still going to collect the buckets, but we'll let you know when the QR codes are back up and working. So hold on there. All right, back to Paul.
Thank you. I have been waiting with such excitement for over 10 months since Shawn Moren said she would come and speak at breakfast. I have known Shawn for a long time, several different places that she's worked, and one of her stories is in this book, What Really Works, where Tim Schmidt and I introduced the idea of the 7 F's to the world. That's how long I've known Shawn. And I know that she arrived on time at the breakfast, but she was really late coming to see me at the table because she did like 91 hugs. So we know she's got a fan base here. I love this picture. Here's Shawn right there at one of these events where she's volunteering and she's really passionate about what she does. So we know her today as one of the top thought leaders at Gartner, and Gartner is one of the thought leaders in a lot of different things, but she's in their HR practice, some of the best research in the world about the subject we're talking about today. She has also had a stint in HR and in business in these organizations, Smart Style, Salons, Regis, SuperValue, Bluestem, and others. But I love this. She is an adventurous traveler. She loves spending time outdoors. She's an avid volunteer and philanthropist and a joyful snowbird. She goes back and forth from Minnesota to Florida like I do to Arizona. Please join me in welcoming Shawn Moren. So last night, we hosted about 45 HR professionals to do the announcement around the Thrive Awards. And before that, we had a similar conversation to this. And I would just like to start by asking you, when we say building a culture of healthy accountability, what's the shortest phrase you can say that goes through your mind what that means to you?
As an executive, it meant, and you said it earlier, clarity of objectives, executive alignment. And even from my own employee experience, I always felt like no matter what's happening in the organization, if I think about the objectives, then that will keep me steady and stable through whatever winds are coming. And it was kind of my contract that I knew what was expected of me. And it was a way to measure myself as well on how I was doing, how I was learning and growing.
That's a really good start. I was going to ask you how often that happened in your career, but we're going to get there here in a second. Okay. So let's back up. Will you explain to everybody, where and how did you grow up?
I am from Callisburg, Kentucky. If anybody here is from Callisburg, Kentucky, raise your hand. I'll fall over and drop the mic. It is a small town in eastern Kentucky on the border of West Virginia. And so how I grew up, I think the most maybe interesting thing is I moved probably 8 or 9 times when I was going through school. And so my dad was very career-oriented, so we always took moves. So that might sound upending, but actually we had a very tight family. My grandparents would always come and spend a lot of time with us wherever we were. But what I think it really did was, I think the biggest impact, I think, is just I have a sense of looking forward, what's next. I don't look backward too much. It really focuses me on experimenting and learning a lot about yourself when you're in that many different situations.
So there's no straight line. We've talked about this a number of times. Every speaker's been up here. We've said, well, what are the, looking back on your career, so I want you to talk eventually about what exactly you do, but you had an awesome job at the top of an organization that is a thought leader. What were some of the pivot points along the way that kind of sent you in this direction? Yeah, so
first I knew pretty early on in college that I wanted to go into HR. So that was, I was lucky about that.
Where was college?
College was Wildcats, University of Kentucky.
Okay.
Go Big Blue. And in fact, in Florida, it's nice to be an SEC country, I'm going to admit.
Okay.
So not too many people probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, so getting back to your question. So I knew I wanted to go into business, but HR is what I thought was, the humanity and human service focused within an organization. And that's about all I could kind of figure out in college. But I knew that job was, that role was attractive. So and this was before too many colleges had HR degrees. So I cobbled together business curriculum, liberal arts, communications, and kind of branded myself when I went out to the working world as, educated in HR as much as I could pull together. And then the phase 1 of my career, I figured what I would do, and maybe this had to do with all the moves I was making when I was growing up, but I thought I want to try to do every role there is in HR, as many as I can pack into my career. So when I met Paul, actually, I was in the labor relations department. I was in talent management. I was a compensation analyst. I literally tried to hold every job, and not a rotation. And this goes back to accountability, because I feel like I'm an accountability junkie. Like, you need somebody to be responsible, sign me up. Like, I want to go do it. And so, and the reason why I want to take jobs in each area is I wanted to figure out, did I improve things? Was the result, or was that particular function better because I was there? And that's how I would measure myself year over year. So that was kind of the first phase. And so then when I moved into middle management, there was a second phase where I wanted to have as many different business experiences as possible. So I wanted to take all those tools in HR and say, okay, how does this apply in a pre-IPO situation? How does it apply in mergers and acquisitions? How does it apply in a large company and stable success? And I was lucky enough to work with some large employers, and so I was able to take some of those moves within my employer, which helped me grow and kind of build that performance, view of myself over time. And so that was middle management, and also included people leadership. And at any point in time, I could have probably stopped and said, hey, I'm going to stay in talent management or what have you. But those were very intentional steps. And of course, I got that from some really good advice from mentors. It wasn't like I figured that all out myself being in college. But what I thought was, eventually, if I want to be an HR executive, and probably being CHRO was probably a little bit beyond what I was thinking about my career or capability at that point in time. But I thought, if I want to have that opportunity open, then I want to make sure that I'm not too narrow about my career, because I knew colleagues that were saying, I'm going to, stay in this function, I'm going to move up and up and up, and then someone will, give me the crown and the throne, and I'll be CHRO. And I thought, my guess is the world would change, organizations would change. I had no idea how much the world would change. As we sit here now, it's just continuous change, right? Yeah. And so, but I figured, if I got all of those experiences and all those situations, then at least I would be agile when those situations came up and in a better position to lead. And so that was my thought in those first two phases, so it was very intentional. Then I moved into another phase, which I'll call dream job phase. So I was like, I'm done. This is the best job I've ever. So one was, I was head of talent management at Super Value, and I know I've got some colleagues I've worked with. Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
All right. Yeah. At Super Value, so I was head of talent management, and I remember thinking, if I could get that job, that's it, man. That would be so fun every day, and it was so fun every day. And then, but then I also then had, I wanted to get more experiences too, and so then I took a CHRO role at Bluestem Brands, and Bluestem Brands at that point in time was really on a wonderful growth trajectory, and they needed really just a refinement of their value prop. We had a goal to be one of the top employers of choice in Minnesota, which at the time we achieved, and so I really wanted to be accountable for that, and help a team and the executive team, work through that. And so that was a dream job. And then I remember saying, hey, you're thinking about anything else? No, I could do this till I'm 85 years old. And then I didn't, because then a leader that I admired became CEO of Regis Corporation. I literally tracked him down. Actually, I didn't know him. I just admired him, like kind of a creeper from afar. I was like,
Yeah.
So even more creepy, I called his old, the assistant. I got through the assistant where he worked. I said, hey, I really admire this person. I think I would gel with him. Can you get me in contact with him? And so I did get a phone call from his office, and luckily it was, he said, I'm interested, let's have breakfast. And so we had breakfast, and I went through an interview process, and I became head of HR for Regis Corporation. And again, I was like, I love this job. I'm a retailer at heart. My hair looked great because it was hair salons at the time. In that picture, super fun. I have drawerfuls of shampoos and hair products. If you need any extra, come to my house. Give them to me. But anyway, it was great. And so that was my dream job phase. And I had probably exceeded, any role that I thought possible, especially younger in life. And then it became another pivot, which was like some fast surprises. And so at Regis, we were transitioning from a store-owned model to a franchise model. So essentially what that means is all of our employees would become employees of franchisees, which meant that, over a period of maybe a couple of years, we went from 40,000 employees plus to the projection was maybe 250 employees. So that was really going to change the scope of my role. And so that sounds like, maybe you have time to play golf in the afternoon, and if those of you guys have been through a wind down, like it's like a roller coaster. You've got euphoria on your successes in making this transition, but then at some points you think you're going to die when you're in the top of the roller coaster coming down. And so, so it was a very busy time, but during that time I was asked to be not only head of HR, but also head of store operations, which I love so much, and I really respect so much retail service workers, especially the stylists. And so it was just a real honor to be able to lead that team through the transition to franchisees, and then, but also it was coming out of COVID. So, how do I inspire a group where they're making less money, they're worried about their own safety, they're worried about client safety. So it was a very exciting time. So that was a surprise. But it was a job that I felt honored to take. And then we had another CEO planned transition, so we were restructuring, preparing for the future. And I had shared that I wasn't sure whether I wanted to stay with the organization given all the changes. And frankly, on a human level, I was a little worn out. But then they offered me, and I was honored to take this role, a division president role. It was a demotion. By the way, I took several demotions, during my career trajectory. Not all of them had less pay, but this one had, a pay drop too. And I hadn't really formulated what I wanted to do next. So, and I was honored that they would ask me to lead, a division in operations. And so I took that role. And then I said this was the kind of period of surprises. And then I lost that job. So my job was eliminated. And for all the right business reasons, and there's a lot of HR people here, and you know what all the right reasons are. So for all the right reasons, my job was eliminated. And it was so cool. I got a call from the prior CEO, who I tracked down in a creepy way. But he called me and he said, hey, my wife and I were talking, and we heard about your job elimination. And we think it was so cool. He said, and I was grateful for the opportunity, by the way. That's the emotional state that I was in. I was grateful for the opportunity to have that kind of a role and move into operations. And again, something I never thought that I would be able to do. But he said, I think God opened a door for you that you weren't opening for yourself. You knew you needed to move on to your next chapter of whatever that was. And this is forcing you to do that. And I thought, how cool. What a great way to think about that. So I did. I took a couple months after my job was eliminated, and I discovered I wasn't great at tennis or golf, and blew out my knee. So I was like, wow. And but the reason I went into HR was because I wanted to be of service, and if I could have figured out a career to be financially independent and volunteer all the time, I would have done that. And so I thought, maybe this is the time to get back to that. So in my current pivot, and Claire and I were just talking a minute ago, it's not like your last chapter, it's your next chapter.
Yeah, that's right.
So my current chapter, and I don't know what the rest of my career trajectory looks like, and you guys have the same situation of many chapters in your careers that you can move to. So this one is really of service. And so I did three things. One, I joined the board of Corner House, which is right here in Minnesota. Hopefully I have a minute at the end to talk about that. I'm very passionate about that work. If you are in Sarasota, Florida, and you go to the Moat Research Marine Aquarium, and you go to the sea turtle section, I'll be there on weekends talking to you about endangered turtles. So that's my other area of human service that I like, that one-on-one contact. I don't have to worry about budgets or being the center of town halls or anything like that. And then this role came along with Gartner. And with Gartner, I work with CHROs exclusively, and my number one value is care. I get on the call, and I'm not going to lie, it's a great gig. And because I consider all my clients friends, and it is a job where I can solely focus on how to help them as a human. And we focus on, it's not coaching, it's more on strategy. How can I help them with their strategy? Most of them are going through transformation. And if I can save them stress, time, money, then I feel gratified by that. So I feel like it's not an executive role in the type that I was doing before, but it's really narrowing into that calling for service.
But they could measure your care on the 7F's wheel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely they could.
And I want the calls to be fun. Like I was like, people, it's a beautiful time to be in HR. I know there's a lot of HR leaders in here. It's a challenging time, but it's a beautiful time to be in HR. And so many times, I've heard over my career, really, I want to be at the table, or I want to sit on the bus. I mean, you and people leaders, you have the keys to the bus at this point in time. And organizations really, this is a place to lean in for all of us.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So we had this group last night. And I have to say that when we did the meeting almost a year ago, November last year, in this room where we did the conference to reveal everything we learned in the research study, people who were at the conference got one of these. This is mine. And we sent you one of these.
Yep.
And you sent me an email. Tell me about that.
All caps, I love this. Can you send more copies? And Paul said, no, I'm out. That was basically what happened.
Yeah, too many people asked for them, but we did get you some.
Yeah. Well, and I admitted last night in a smaller group, I said I'm not going to say this and get taped on it, but I did go to Kinko's and make copies on my own. But it had Paul Boss's name all over it and good leadership, and I mailed them right out.
Yeah, well, we're videotaping today.
Yeah. I know that. But I figured since you would be the one who had the grievance against me, it's okay.
But why did you like it so much? For us, here we are, good leadership. Gartner is Gartner. And she sends me a message, I love this. And I was like, what did we do?
Yeah,
Why do you like
yeah.
it so much?
I think it's just the right solution at the right time. And you guys have your own experiences as well. So here's what was happening in my world at Gartner, but also within my network, beyond clients, is I was getting more and more questions about driving accountability. And so the first one I thought, oh, that's an aberration. I give them the standard answer, the answer that all HR professionals would give, which is aligned leadership, clear objectives, solid performance management, et cetera. And so then, but the questions kept ramping up. And so then I was doing my intake, like, why am I getting this ramp up of questions? And so, what I was hearing was, everything from, there's executive turnover. And when you have executive turnover, as you may have experienced, there's a little bit of a domino effect. It's just not one executive. They may bring in their own team, et cetera, which can cause confusion in goals, redirection. So there's a period of time there where goals may be confused and accountability may be confused. Leader fear. And as you've pointed out, this isn't true, but there is a myth. And certain leaders think that driving accountability, and perhaps, maybe the confusion that it's not healthy, leaders are afraid because they think that if they talk about accountability, that retention will go down, engagement will go down, they'll lose employees, employee experience will go down, so they're afraid. Third is this growth and cost optimization, not being clear. Most, from our research, about 75% of organizations today are in cost optimization mode. 50% of organizations are in growth mode, or say they're in growth mode. So those two things can be at odds.
Yeah.
So it's really important to communicate what are the expectations for your role, because you have both of these things going on, which totally makes sense. Many organizations are trying to grow, but in doing that, they have to reinvest. We're all going through continuous and stacked change. A lot of that's coming from our environment. So that's another thing that can distract. These were my goals 6 months ago, a year ago. Are they the same goals now? Then something else, and we just dropped some leadership dropped some research on this based on CEO research, CHRO research, business executives, on this feeling, what I'll theme as cultural atrophy, where our research is showing that leaders feel like we've stepped away from, in the past few years, from customer centricity, focus on performance, focus on accountability, and so we really need to get back to that. And what we're seeing from employees is they want to learn and grow. How can they learn? How can they know what to learn and grow if they're not given feedback, if they're not given clear objectives? And then so when I got this, so I was thinking deeply about all these scenarios, and so that there's got to be a new and different, fresh answer to accountability, because the landscape has changed. All those things about executive alignment, good performance management, all still true, have to be there. But with today's changing environment, we need a fresh perspective. So I was thinking about this on the plane. I was like, okay, I gotta, what is the answer here? And so then I literally go into my house, I open this big package, it's that workbook, and I called one of my clients. I was like, hang on, I'm gonna read this book overnight and I'm gonna call you. And one of the things I do, this is a bit of a commercial, but it's sincere. What I like about the approach is it's simple. So again, I'm a large organization background, and something that's simple tends to get executed easier. Something that's practical tends to resonate with organizational leaders. I also like it because it makes accountability a team sport. It's not left on the leader's shoulders to figure everything out, right? It's got goals for learning and growing as an employee and seeking accountability out. It's got, executive role modeling, like you guys talked about. So it's got this fresh perspective that's practical, that's real, and I think really is more modern for today's environment.
Well, the things around good leadership have to be simple, because I'm from South Dakota and I didn't get very good grades in school.
I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I didn't get good.
Yeah,
Salt of the earth people, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. All simple
Kentucky.
stuff, right? So I'd like to hear your thoughts on synonyms for the word healthy. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we saw this entire project turn. We had a lot of people who pushed us away. I think senior executives thought this was going to be a gotcha project, which the research came back, and it kind of is, actually. But when we put the word healthy in front of accountability, it all changed.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, Gartner, HR experience, watching what's going on in the world, what are the most important synonyms for healthy in that statement?
I'm going to answer your question in a slightly different way because it just kind of popped into my mind. When I think of healthy accountability, I actually start with healthy organizations. And I've been involved in a lot of transformations, restructuring, growth, everything else. So I think about a healthy organization. And a healthy organization to me is we have a promise of stable employment, such as much as we can. We know technology is going to change. Giving back to the community and a healthy, and I come from the private sector, healthy investment. And when I think about investment, I think about not institutionals, but I think about all of you, your parents, people who invest in your organization because they have faith in it and they're expecting a return so they can retire from it. So I think about all of those elements as a healthy organization. So when I back into healthy organizations, that drives me to healthy accountability because I always looked at it as an honor to deliver upon those objectives that could create a healthy organization, that could create healthy employment, healthy communities, healthy investment thesis for people who are investing in our organizations who have faith in us.
When we asked that question as part of the research, that's where the focus on growth came from. People would say, yeah, it's healthy because I want more. And that's where the concept of seek accountability came from. That's at the center of the concept. JC's has someone in the audience who has a question for us.
Yeah, so my colleague Jean, good leadership coach, and also who's lived in the HR space for a while. Jean, you got a question for Shawn?
No. Hi, Jean. Hello, Jean, by the way.
don't.
That's exactly right. We knew Jean from last night.
So
that's okay. I have one
Thank
more.
goodness, because
Cool.
I worked with Jean 30 years ago. I thought, what question is she going to have that I don't even remember? My mind has already erased itself after 25 years.
Oh, it just popped up.
Hi, Shawn.
Hi.
How are you? So my question is, as a coach, we can say, yeah, healthy accountability is good and, positive and reward people and everything. Why is it not happening?
Yeah, I think for some of those things that we mentioned, I think there's executive turnover that's causing some distraction. Most of the change today is coming from external to the environment, whether you're impacted by tariffs or global unrest or political differences that are instability that are coming. And so I think there's that distraction, executive turnover. Fear, one of the things that we have been focusing on in HR is employee experience, which is super important. Actually, accountability helps improve the employee experience, but somehow leaders, I think there's a misnomer that they feel like that they are at odds with each other, and that's not. So I think those are the barriers. And then again, I think it's important to help our organizations, and I saw so many hands raised of HR team members. Again, it's a beautiful time to be in HR because you can really support your leadership in saying, here is the path. We know you want to grow. We know we have to be more efficient. We know we want to deliver on employee experience. Here is the path to be able to do that. And so I think it's a wonderful insight.
Yeah, and I'll answer it in one other way too. In pursuing a definition of healthy accountability, what the employees who rated their organization as healthy in this subject, they said people are winning together.
Yeah.
They're winning. They feel like every day, every week, they're winning together. They're helping each other win. Simplest concept ever. And that's what we're pursuing.
I think that's so true because, and I can remember one organization I was working in where there were so many objectives. I mean, the poor, even in the HR department, the poor, like at the director, manager level, I mean, they had like 30 objectives. And it was not a winning culture because they couldn't achieve any objective because they had too many. And so they built a culture of, I hate to say a culture of losing, but they were used to losing. And so what we really had to do was come in and narrow those objectives to what was most important and what would most create the healthy organization. And then they started to see, well, we actually achieved that. And first they were like, no, don't take away all the stuff. We can't say no. but narrowing down to the objectives that they could clearly deliver on helped them learn how to win, and they started celebrating. And I think that's a part of a healthy culture too, is let's stop and pause and celebrate the wins. So
yeah, prioritization, sacrifice, that's what it takes.
And role model the winning, and celebrate
Focus,
as a team.
yeah. Okay, so we've been asking the same question now for more than 10 years to our speakers. And it's the final question.
Yep.
And that is that how do you know for sure that goodness pays for you in your leadership?
Yeah. So here's the example I'd like to talk about. I never think about what leadership does for me, and so many people don't probably, right? But I think as leaders, and today especially, all employees have influence. But when I was CHRO at Bluestem, and there's some Bluestemers out there, shout out, Anita. So when I was at Bluestem, it was, I had mentioned earlier, we were on a growth trajectory, and we felt like we could be an employer of choice, which we also felt like we achieved by a number of measures. But one of the things, and my personal passion, again, is service orientation and volunteerism. And we didn't have a community relations strategy, which I felt like was incongruent with the hearts of the people that I worked with. I knew that they were very caring people. So I called another friend, Elizabeth Mansfield, who has a great mind for brand and faith and values and everything else. And I said, hey, can you come in and let's create an employee-centric community relations strategy. Let's find out what employees want. And so the result of that was employees wanted to break down silos within the organization and work together. They wanted to know the people that they were helping. They wanted to give with their hands, not just their pocketbooks, but they wanted to do both. And so we let the employees design the community relations strategy. And then the result of that was, and they made presentations and they submitted ideas for who they thought that the organization should partner with. So the result was that they wanted to partner with Habitat for Humanity. So we set up a strategic partnership with Habitat for Humanity where we literally paid for and built with volunteer hours houses, at least one a year for a period of years. And by the way, this legacy went on after I left, so it was important for me to leave that legacy. But to see, leadership influence, in this case, really turning it over to employees to say what matters to you, what would you be really motivated by, to have the impact of that, put people in affordable housing for years to come. It was just a, really, an honor for me to be involved with, and thanks to all the Bluestemers out there who participated in it. But I think that's when, in that case, I was certainly using my position and a vision to help, make this happen. But what I love, especially about today's environment and with social media and how much influence that employees have in an organization, I think you can really influence that kind of change at every level, right? Like if you want to make a change in your organization.
Fantastic story. Thank you. Please give it up for Shawn Moren.
Thank you.
Now, Julie's got all sorts of good news to share with us today.
Wonderful. Okay, well, before I do this, JC, I think you have an announcement about the QR codes.
Yep, just a little update. So if you did try to give it the QR code and it didn't work, we're going to send out an updated QR code later for you to go ahead and still be able to give. It was kind of one of those Taylor Swift situations where all of y'all were trying to get into the QR code at the same time and you blew up Ticketmaster. You did that at the Good Leadership Breakfast today, so bravo. But the total that Julie's going to share is current, and then we'll update with you later on if you'd like to give, and then what that current final total is. Julie.
Good. Okay, before we do that, Shawn, as a thank you for being here today, Good Leadership is going to make a $1,000 donation to a nonprofit of your choice. I think you gave us a little preview earlier, but tell us where that's going.
Yeah, so that's going to go to Corner House. And Corner House is a Minnesota organization. They're child advocacy, and they help children who've been physically abused, and actually most of the children have been sexually abused or have had allegations of sexual abuse. So what Corner House does, and it's super proud because it's a hometown story, Corner House sets the world standard, the global standard for how to get kids to open up about what has happened to them, which is really important. It's important for them to talk about it and move on. It's important for our judicial system to do what they do best. And so it's a great organization. And then they also do preventative work, so training all of us as adults, whether you are active with kids through coaching or church, or as a parent who's worried about is my teenager getting appropriate messages online? It helps educate so we can all be aware and spot things that aren't maybe not quite right, and then what do we do about it? So that's the organization that I care about. So thank you. Thank you so much.
You get to wait a second.
Not
Now
done
the
yet.
most important job.
Okay, and despite our challenges with the QR code, still raised a total of $1,683, and with the generous match from our friends at Handy Paint Pail, $3,366 raised today. So thank you.
Yeah, fantastic.
And Shawn, can you draw a name, please?
Okay, I'm gonna go in the middle here. Oh my gosh, from Robert Half Technology, Bob Berg.
Okay, Bob.
Where's
come
Bob
on
from
up.
Robert Half?
Nice.
There you go.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
sponsorship.
Come on up here. Come on. No, you stay up here too. Yeah. It's a really long walk, isn't it, Bob? Yeah. Excellent. Congratulations.
Okay, Bob, welcome this morning. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you here this morning.
I've been here a couple times. Robert Half is the sponsor, and it is a breakfast that I've really enjoyed and appreciated in the past. So good to see all of you here.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Okay, well, you have $3,366 to donate to a nonprofit of your choice. Where would you like that to go?
Hadn't even thought about it, so it is going to be, my family has been touched by cancer as well as myself, so it is going to be a cancer organization, probably the Minnesota Cancer Society, I think, something like that.
That's right.
So that's where it's going to go, so thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah. Thanks again to you, Shawn. One more time there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of love in the room.
Yeah. So it's been a real honor to stage this conversation that will continue going forward. You know, as business people, we tend to think so much about revenue being the oxygen of our organizations. And in these conversations that we were having with Gulsa and everybody that came together that was so interested in the HR Thrive Awards, it really became clear that the people who recruit and develop and retain the people are at the heartbeat of the organization. Because without the people, what would we have? I mean, at Good Leadership, without our people, we'd have, nothing to sell. We'd have no one to sell it. We'd have no customers. And that applies to every enterprise that decides to organize and move forward. And it seems like such a simple idea that we should be celebrating the people who are doing excellent work in HR. So we're going to do that. We just talked about it right here. We're calling it the HR Thrive Awards. And we're asking you to help us figure this out. JC, do you have any other messages you want to send us home with?
Yeah, so I always love at the end, like, who's had a really good, surprising, positive time this morning? Yeah, and I don't want to force you to raise your hand, but you're like, no, this has actually been really good. So there's something in your spirits going, so now what? So we got 3 so now what's for you. Number 1, nominate individuals for the Thrive Awards, right? And do it soon. It's like, okay, QR code, I'm going to do it. Email's going to be coming out. Let that be one of your so now what, so you can keep this energy going. Number 2, sign up for the breakfast next month. November 14th, Jude Bricker, CEO of Sun Country Airlines, will be here to wrap up our fall series. It's amazing how when you put something on your calendar, how more likely you are to do the thing. So November 14th, put it on your schedule right now, sign it up. And then lastly, I'm going to be hopping on a plane in a couple of hours. Don't tell Jude, I'm flying Delta. But I'm going to be bringing my Healthy Accountability book to go ahead and dive on in for a few hours again to go, what are the tidbits that I can go ahead and be taking with me as I get ready for a few days of work down in Nashville. So the book is here. It's, as you can see, it's in hand, so order yours. You can get yours right now and jump into all of this healthy accountability content, because it's going to change the way you do the things you do. So those are 3 really good so now what's for you as you head into your weekend.
Yeah, and we're going to celebrate it in November, and we just could not avoid the obvious pun. With the airplane on the front cover, we had to have the CEO of Sun Country be our speaker. So there you go. I'm going to focus us one more time on this definition. Goodness is when people thrive together in a culture of encouragement, accountability, and positive teamwork. And the healthy accountability, without it, the goodness just doesn't work. That's what we've dedicated ourselves to. And if you had a good time here today, that's satisfying to us. But we're trying to be effective, which means if something stimulated you, maybe around the HR Thrive Award, that's an opportunity. Please think about the people in your organizations or your friends who are in HR and nominate them. You can make a big difference there. But we also know human nature. Usually dissatisfaction is what motivates us to do stuff. If you heard something from Shawn or the research or the 7S Wheel stuff and you're like, yeah, we should be doing better at our organization, then find somebody that shares that urgency with you. The motivation formula for human beings is that opportunity is motivating, but dissatisfaction motivates us 3 times more. And we can't do anything by ourselves. That's urgency squared. If you're having trouble with that, we'll help you find someone that shares that urgency, because that's what we do. So everything we do is lifted up to the idea that goodness pays. JC, what do I want everyone to know? Remember?
That goodness pays.
Yes, that's goodness pays. Say it with me. Goodness pays. Thank you very much. Please come and celebrate the book in November.